Hey, welcome to Racket Stringing Pro. Today we're going to go back to some basics. Uh, this is kind of the first in the series of videos about, picking the perfect racket stringing machine for yourself. And I know I've done some videos in the past, just some different things, but I thought I need to go back to some essential terms. And so I'm going to take us through that completely today, and then that's going to lead to some more videos that I'll be making over the next couple weeks as well. But first, I'm excited. I wanted to share with you my new Hangout. It's called Racket Stringing Pro, and I will leave a link to it in the description so that you can join. It's free to join, and it's just a community where we can talk as racket stringers, learn, share, grow from each other. And when you go into the when you go into the dashboard, you're going to have an option of joining the community, and that's where kind of we dialogue and we can talk back and forth, ask questions, help each other on out. And then there's going to be a classroom section, and you can see the classroom section right now. I've got two things in there. One, I'm kind of finishing up my my professional racket stringer, what it means to be a professional racket stringer. There's going to be some other courses in there, and then I have the level up, which is kind of a more a premium, but it's for stringers who want to go from where they're at to the next level, whatever that may be. Kind of walk with you side by side until you get to that point, whatever it's going to take. And we would have maybe weekly one-to-one calls, or even more than that, just until you get to that point. And so I'm excited about that. I'll leave that in the description as far as how you can get onto that. Again, the community is free. I just started it a couple days ago, so there's got a few people in there, but I'm really looking to grow that. The more we have, the better community we have. And so, I mean, I think that's kind of originally what I wanted to do, is start a community. So anyways, let's go ahead and just get into the terms right now. So first thing, tensioner. What is a tensioner? Okay, so, again, this is basic terms, but I hope that if you watch this, there might be a few that resonate with you and a few that you weren't sure exactly what they were. But these are words that we really got to get down if we're going to be choosing a string machine. So the mechanism that applies tension to the string during stringing. So I have a couple arrows here. So you can see on the first one on the left, which is a crank type racket stringing tension head. And so you can see it includes that little round thing, which we consider the Diablo. That's where you wrap your string around, and then you actually have the tensioning mechanism behind that. And then I showed on my Biardo I'm sorry, the first one was on the left. On the right is the Biardo, and you can see how it basically looks almost the same, but it pulls automatically. And so if you want to take a closer look at them here, I made the pictures a little bit bigger. So that actually is the tensioning mechanism right there. And so the next thing is drop weight. Okay, this refers specifically to the type of manual machines that use this system. A couple years back, I made some videos and tutorials on. You can see here I have a ClipperMate machine, and that big weight right there in the center where the arrow is pointing to, that is the drop weight, and that actually acts like what will be, instead of using a crank to pull the machine, you're going to move that lever until that weight kind of uses gravity, basic physics, right? And then down below in the corner, you actually see like a little black round thing. That's where you put the string in. So then as the weight goes down, the string tightens until it reaches that certain amount. So you can see this is probably not quite as accurate as the other two types of stringing machines. Okay, so you can see it a little bit closer there. And most of the drop weight machines look similar to that. Third term is electronic tensioning. Okay, so this relates specifically to machines that are electric, that you plug in, that have a motor, and somehow pull back the whole tensioning mechanism. So you see a picture on the left, you can see the string wrapping around the Diablo, and then it goes back into the tensioning head, and then it pulls it until it reaches the tension that you're looking at. So you can see two different views of that as well. And this is really the most precise way of stringing a racket because it is based on the electronic. So it's going to be consistent. It's not relying on your hand cranking, and therefore, yeah, it makes it a little bit more accurate there. So constant pull. So this is along with the electronic machines as well. So you can see on that little video, let's see if I can rewind it and play it again there. You can see I tensioned it. You know what? Actually, let me go all the way back. I don't think I can go all the way back though. Let me go back to the last screen and then go back. Okay, now watch as, so right now I pulled it and see how it's continuing to pull. And so as I release the clamp, the mechanism continues to keep it that taut, and then I clamp the string. So the advantage to this is that you don't lose any tension. There's no creep in the string, because on the other two types, basically what happens is you could lose a little bit of tension because you're cranking to get to a certain temper. You're cranking to get to a certain uh, tension, and then it stops. It locks it out. Like in this type of machine right here, it'll lock it out. A little lever will come up and it just locks. And then you release the clamp and the string can actually pull back a little bit. So you're actually essentially losing a little bit of tension on each, on each of the times that you do this and each of the pulls, right? And in a regular racket, if you're pulling 20 mains and you're pulling, or 18 mains and you're pulling, 18 or whatever the racket is, crosses, then, anywhere from 36 to maybe 40 strings that you're going to be doing this with. So you can see why when we talk about lockout, it's not quite as accurate. Now, please, leave something in the comments if you feel different, if you find some other things that are interesting, if you have other questions. And again, we are going to have some live. I forgot to mention this earlier, but in my new community, I'm going to have weekly meetups where we just get together for half an hour and we just talk about different topics. And this is on the list of that for actually February of 25. It'll be in there. I'm going to try to be doing it every day. I don't know if I can, but my goal is to have one meetup every day for like half an hour. I'll vary the time a little bit so that more people can join. But it's just a way for us to like get together. If there's questions or you just want to know a little bit about something or get some feedback, that's the opportunity to do that. So lockout tension. I know I already kind of talked about that a little bit. And this is really what happens is you pull you crank, and as it pulls back, as soon as it hits whatever tension you put on the screw, it locks, and then it can't go any further. And then you have to put your clamp on it, and then that's how that works. Okay, the next term, clamps. Okay, we know what those are, right? But here I have the arrow. The clamp actually relates to just the piece that fits on the clamp base. So it's this silver looking. You see the whole thing with the fork at the top with the 4 points. That is what we consider to be the clamp. That's the only thing that's considered a clamp because it comes out of the clamp base. Sometimes you have to replace the clamps. You have to tighten them. You have to uh, get replacement ones. There's just some other things that you would do. But anyways, that's what we consider to be the clamps. Fixed clamps. Okay, so fixed clamps are fixed on some type of a mounting system. So I have a couple examples. I have an old Prince Neos kind of machine, and you see those are on two round glide rails, right? So the clamp goes up and down the rail, but it can't move at all. So when you string a racket with that type of machine, first you're stringing only the mains. You cannot string across because the bars are set vertical, right, to the racket. So it's set up just for the mains. So then what you have to do is you have to somehow secure the last string, and and then you turn both of those rails the other direction. So now they're going horizontal, and then you can start. Then you can string your crosses. And this is the way that things used to really be done, but we don't use this system really anymore. So you're going to find it just on the older machines. So then on the right, you see um, the fixed clamps on a standard stringing machine where they're on, um, they glide on the glide bars there, right? So they can go up and down, they can turn around, they can move around in a 360 circular motion. So you can clamp anywhere around. But that's what we consider to be fixed clamps. They're fixed to a base. Somehow they're not just floating, because that is the next thing, is floating clamps. The only thing you're going to find floating clamps is if you don't have a secure, base. That it's mostly on the drop weight machines and lower end crank machines. And so you can see the two clamps. They're basically vice grips with the clamp on the top, right? And the way that they work is they are not attached to a fixed object. They actually use the other strings to keep themselves stable. So they connect with the string that you're now tightening, and then they connect with the other string that you had just tightened. So it takes two strings in order to make those clamps work. Yeah, so we don't really use that system that much anymore. It's not, obviously you can see where you could lose tension with that, right? But it's good to know what the term means. So, all right, so now let's talk about base clamps. So base clamps are just basically the base. I mean, they are clamps because you do have to take where you see the silver part that is sticking out. You would move that to the left to lock the base. So that would be kind of the clamp that locks the base, right? So that's what we say about base clamps. And there's different types of base clamps depending on the ways that they lock. And you can see in this one, this is on my Bayardo machine, where you you can lock it by just flicking it over gently, and then it locks, it clicks, and you can see the top part will come out. So you can actually unlock it by just pushing down on that. So that's what we call just the base clamps. Okay, the turntable. What's the turntable? When we're talking about turntable, it's the whole thing, including the rails where the racket sits on, the rails where the base clamps move around, and then the clamps are attached to. That is what we consider to be the turntable. And generally, the turntable goes around 360 degrees. In some machines, maybe not all the way around because you have the Diablo in the way, but I think you should be able to go around 360 on most of the newer machines. And there's also locks that you can lock the turntables, so that way when you need it to be in a different angle, you're using like some of the older like Prince O ring, the ones that I forget what they're called now. But anyways, yeah, when there's certain types of situations where you need to lock it in certain um, specific place where you don't want it to move around. And then you can also put the brake on a little bit, so it creates friction. It's a friction brake, so that way it'll turn around, but it's not going to keep spinning, because you don't want it to keep spinning. Like, move the rack around, it's going to keep spinning on you. So yeah, there's all of that. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the turntable. All right, number 11, the mounting system. Okay, this is the mechanism that secures the racket frame in place. So there are different types of mounting system, and I'm going to talk about that now. But basically, the mounting system is just the system that secures the frame to the machine. So the first one is the 2-point mounting. Okay, you're going to find that on a lot of drop weight and a lot of lower end machines. Really, that just means that there's only 2 points that the mounting system actually secures the racket. So in this specific instance, it's 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock that are connected. So you can see where that could be a problem because there's only two places that hold that. And when you string a racket, rackets expand and so forth a little bit. And so unless there's something keeping it from expanding too far, yeah, you could run into problems. So the next part, then we talk about 4-point mounting. We don't really use 4-point mounting that much. I have a picture of a couple different ones. That one on the left kind of looks like a 2-point, but it's actually 4-point because there's two little knobs on there. So it's actually connecting 4 points, not in the center, but like 4 little points. And then the one on the right actually connects at 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock. So you can see that I have the two different arrows. So that way, at least it makes it a little bit more, uh, it creates a little bit more stability that way. But most of the machines these days use the 6-point mounting. And this is the Bayardo, which has, you see the two arms that have two connections on it, and then at 6 and 3 o'clock. So it's this is a pretty standard turntable, and I would recommend this is really what you're looking for. Then there's different types. Some you have to adjust at every single point. With this type of a machine, though, there's two knobs on the end where you can actually see them kind of on one side there. So what you do first is you secure the larger one, and then the little one, in this case, the little one secures the 6 o'clock and the 12 o'clock, and then the larger arms are secured by the lower. And so it's a two knob thing. It makes it real simple to secure. It only takes a few seconds. The gripper. What is the gripper? All right. Well, the gripper is actually the part on the whole tension head that grips the string. And this, I will go into the different types of grippers, but just this for the illustration purposes, just to show you the pictures, the grippers are basically, that's what the gripper looks like. So the first kind of gripper is the linear. Okay, so it goes in a straight line, right? So basically, you put the string in between those two spots, and inside there's also little ball bearings, and so it moves easily, smoothly through there. And most of the machines have a Diablo that you wrap the string around before you even get to the linear gripper. Why is that important? Well, there's a couple different reasons, but a main one that I see is a reason behind it is if you don't use the Diablo and you only tighten it with this, it sometimes gets stuck, and it makes more work for the machine. Plus, it could crush the string a little bit more inside of that. Okay, so yeah, but this is the most common for a lot of the machines. There are also rotary grippers, and you'll see that on some of those Gamma machines. So basically, it kind of acts as the Diablo in a way, and also the gripper. So you put it into the spot, into the sliced area there, and then it's rotary, so it will turn in a rotation clockwise and then until it reaches that tension. I really don't like rotary grippers myself. I know it's a personal preference, but yeah, I prefer not to have these kind. All right, 18, pre-stretch. Okay, so so again, this is going to require electronic machines. This is a Bayardo Light screen, and you can see the little guy there pulling the string like he's pre-stretching. And so basically that feature is valuable anytime you want to pre-stretch a string, whether it's, not everybody likes to use the machine for pre-stretching. Most of us like to do it manually and then put the string on the machine, but you can use the machine, and basically what happens is it will pull first, release, and then re-pull. And it takes a little while getting used to, because it's like you have to really, it's pulling, and then you're like ready to go on to the next string, but then it like releases and pulls again. So yeah, that's basically what that feature is. So if that's something that you want, you got to kind of make sure that your electronic machine has that. Cross strings. I know it's pretty basic, but it is the strings that you string after you've strung the main strings, and they go horizontal. If you hold the racket up, they go horizontal with the racket. So they go, east to west and so forth. So you can see where I have that. It's pretty basic, but I just wanted to, bring that out. And then, of course, you have the main strings. Those are what you're going to be stringing first. So if you hold the racket up, those are the ones that are vertical. Weaving. Okay, weaving is just the simple act of pushing strings through or pulling strings through. In this case, I'm pushing them through. Many people, and it takes a little bit longer to learn to pull them towards you, but I think pulling them towards you is probably more effective. But this is one way of just kind of pushing the strings through, and you are weaving a racket. Grommets. Grommets are those little things. They're usually black, right? And that's where the strings go through, and that way the strings do not touch the racket. I mean, there are some rackets that strings are supposed to touch the frame, but in most cases they don't. And so this is what separates them. It's the grommets. So when we're talking about grommets, that's what we're talking about. And you have a whole grommet strip that goes all the way around. You have the head guard, which is part of the grommet strip on the top or separate from the grommets. And then you have at the throat, you also have a little grommet strip. All right, number 23, awl. Okay, this is what an awl looks like. There are, essentially, this is what the awl is going to look like. It's going to have a sharp point on it, and really the purpose of that is sometimes you need to widen a grommet hole in order to get the string in. And so you would use this tool. You would put a little bit of wax or a little bit of petroleum jelly or some lip balm or something at the end, and then you push it through, because the reason you do that so you don't cause friction, and then you have more tendency to break the string if there's already string in the hole. And so we use this tool to make holes bigger if we're using a hole for a tie-off that wasn't maybe designed for a tie-off, or we're pushing our tie-off knots, tie-off strings through holes that are, they have strings in them, so it's kind of hard to, you just need to make a little room in there. That's what we use an awl for. There's also awls that have grinding tools that will grind a grommet out, but those look a little bit different. Okay. All right, starting clamp. Everybody needs a starting clamp. This is the most important tool. Many of us have two or more. Starting clamp is used to secure strings when beginning the stringing process. Not just that. I listed here a few other reasons. Starting the mains without needing to double pull. So basically, you use that to secure the first main, and then you can pull against that, and you can start your string job. Extending short strings. If your strings are too short, you use this, and you put it in between, and then you put another string, and then that way you can pull the short string tight enough. It helps prevent slippage because you're using it behind your standard clamps, just in case the clamp is not as secure. This will keep the string from moving. So I always use it at the end when I'm doing the mains. Holding knots under tension. Okay, so when you are pulling your knots, I use that to hold that while I'm doing that. Creating a bridge. So yeah, again, if your string is too short and you can't hit your Diablo, you use this to bridge two strings. You also would take a couple of these, or maybe just one, when you're pre-stretching manually. You have the string around whatever pole you're using, and then I use that to secure it, and then I use my hands to pull against it. These are some of the main ways that you would use a starting clamp. You also are going to use a starting clamp when you, there's other reasons, but this is the main reasons. Got to have starting clamps. And so you can see a couple places here where I used it. The picture on the left, on the top, I have it behind a clamp as I am checking calibration on my machine, because many times if you're just pulling directly with two clamps, there could be a tendency for it to slip, and so this, creates a security. Then the picture on the right, you can see I'm using it as my starting clamp to hold the string at the beginning, and then later I will tie that off, and that way I do not have to have a starting knot. Okay, next thing, tension calibration. Okay, this is checking the calibration. You're not actually calibrating it using these two tools. So you have the one on the left, which is a manual one. You have one string at the end and one on the other end, and as it pulls, it pulls out the little rod, and then you can read the tension. It's kind of like your tire gauge, your manual tire gauge, pressure gauge. You put that in your tire, and then it shoots it out as far as where it is. That's how that works. I like to use. I've also done a video on the electronic one, and So I'll try to post that in the description later. I'll put as much information as I can in there, but basically it'll digitally read out what tension you're pulling at. So basically you're setting the machine to different tensions. So you're making sure that at all the different tensions, it's pulling accurately what it's supposed to be. And, you do that periodically, whether, you choose for yourself, maybe every 100 rackets, every time you move your machine, every time you're starting at a tournament, or you're starting the day, or whatever it is. Just be sure to, keep that in mind. Next thing, crank tensioner. So that is that thing on the lockout type machines like this. So basically, it's a round thing that's on the long metal kind of piece of metal that kind of will roll back or roll forward with the gear underneath that until you just basically crank it until it locks out based on the tension that you put in there. All right, here we go. 27. I think we're going to 31, so we're almost done. Stick with me. Got some stuff I want to talk about at the end too, so that I think you're gonna love. So, double action clamps. Okay, so there's double action clamps, and then there are also dual action clamps. Okay, but double action clamps, it's kind of like double action shotgun, right? One motion does two things. So double action clamps actually secure both the string and the clamp base at the same time. We don't really have a lot of that. Most of them are actually dual action, and I'll talk about that next. So double action is a little bit different. Some people use the term interchangeably, but really it's different. So this would be considered, these old types right here would be considered double action, because when you tighten the lever that you see there, once you secure that down, it tightens the top, meaning the grooves that go into the string, and then also on the bottom that goes onto the rail. So these are single, you only do one thing and it locks both things. But most of the machines, even including like the Biardos and all of the top electric machines, use a dual action clamp. That basically means that you have to do two motions to secure the clamp and the base clamp. So you lock the strings and then you lock the base, vice versa, whichever first. Okay, speed adjustments. Again, this is the Biardo Lite. Biardo screen looks a little bit different, but you do have a speed adjustment, and there are different types of things that you would use this for. Basically, you would adjust the speed. Sorry, I went to the wrong screen. You would adjust the speed of the pulling. So if you are stringing natural gut or something you want to be a little more careful with, you can slow it down. If you want it to be a little bit quicker, then you can. It's one of those features that are nice to have on machines. Okay, memory function. So there's a couple different things that's good about this. You can have multiple user profiles. You can save settings for like different users that are going to use the machine, like if it's at a shop, something like that. And then extensive customizing. You can store a large number of settings like mounting height, tilt, pull speed, pre-stretch for users. You can, when you do tie-off knots for 5%, 5 pounds, whatever, that way it automatically does that. You just have to push that button, and then it pulls at that tension, so you don't have to do any adjustments and so forth on the machine. All right, last one. Actually, it was just 30. So thanks for watching. Please like and share if this was valuable. And, not everybody who's been watching my videos is subscribing. That would really help me out if you do subscribe. I do appreciate it. And again, the stringing machine Q&A. I'm adding this to my monthly hangout on the calendar that I talked about at the beginning of this video. So every month there's going to be a couple throughout the month where you can just join, and we'll just hang out and talk about stringing machines. I'll answer some questions. I've used lots of machines in the past, over the last 30 years basically, and I know about a lot of different types of machines. Maybe you have some new machines that you like some features of that you want to share with everybody. This is just a great way that we can just kind of all hang out. Again, I will leave a link to join my community. It's free. There's going to be courses in there. There's going to be premium things in there where where I can work with you one-to-one, whatever we're going to be there's going to be different things that I want to be working with, just helping you get to the next level, whatever that's going to take. So I'm going to dedicate to this community. I'm going to try to be in there every day. I'm going to try to have some kind of live half an hour every day where we can just join. Sometimes there might only be 5 people, 2 people, 10. I'm hoping this community grows. So please join. Tell everybody about it. This is going to be for all levels of stringers. I know this video was for kind of just the basics. I'm going to continue this series and do videos on actual stringing machines, and then where to get them, and then the repair, all what things you should be looking for. And those videos are specifically going to be in my community that I talked about. So this one is available on YouTube, but the other ones will be just in the community. So I hope that was helpful. Please leave me some information and a like. And hey, thanks for sharing a half an hour with me. All right, we'll see you next time.